Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. I'm your host today, Bill Banham, and joining me on the show today is a returning guest, Sean Behr, CEO over at Fountain, a high-volume hiring platform that empowers companies with an hourly workforce to streamline and scale their recruiting operations across the globe. Sean, it's my pleasure to welcome you back to the HR Chat podcast today. Welcome. Please reintroduce yourself to our listeners.
Bill, it's great to be back. It's been too long since I got to talk to you. I'm Sean Behr. I'm the CEO at Fountain. My whole career has been in digital technology and software as a service. So I've been fortunate to build a company in the automotive space, one in the advertising space, and one in the e-commerce space. So I spent my whole career in sort of the world of software, and Fountain is really focused on hiring and the hiring of frontline workers, so hourly, frontline, blue collar, gray collar workers around the world. I think what we've learned is we probably took for granted all those people who worked in stores and worked in hospitals and worked in warehouses, and I think the last couple of years have told us how important those workers are to our economy. It's like nothing's a good reminder when you can't get what you want at the store, that there are real great people working throughout our economy in the front lines. And Fountain's focused on helping large organizations hire those workers more effectively. So how do we get a worker to a company where they're going to get a great opportunity for themselves? And, we're really proud. More than 3 million people were hired at our customers last year, and we did that in 75 countries. So got a really, really good scope and a really good understanding of where things are around the world, specifically with this frontline worker. So it's always great to come back and talk more about what's happening in HR and what's happening in hiring.
Okay, so 3 million people, 75 countries. You guys are bossing it right now. And as part of you guys just being everywhere and growing so fast, congratulations, is the fact that you recently acquired Clevy, a conversational AI tool focused on employee experience. Congratulations again. Tell us more about what that means for your customers.
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple of things have come together, right? We've been fortunate at Fountain to acquire a number of companies that help us with our mission, right? Our mission is to open opportunities for the global workforce. So I'm always on the lookout for great pieces of technology and great teams that can help accelerate our ability to achieve our mission, which is really focused again on those frontline workers. I met the team, the Clevy team. They're actually a French team based in Paris, but really working on some amazing conversational AI tools that we can deploy to our customer base. I think we all know AI is the big buzzword this year, right? All the venture capital funding and all the big companies and all the articles coming out about it. But what can AI do from a frontline worker perspective to make it easier for those workers to get jobs, easier for companies to hire them, to eliminate administrative burdens? And so kind of one side of it was the AI part, right? The technology part. But the other part was the Clevy team is just an incredible entrepreneurial team. And, when you find those kinds of teams, the ability to work with them is just, it's a no-brainer. And so we were really fortunate to bring them into the Fountain family. They're now officially Fountaineers and have been for a couple of months and already making a huge impact. Fountain AI, which is one of our new product offerings that lots and lots of customers are using around the world. They've helped accelerate that product. And I think you'll see us continue to develop new innovative solutions in the HR space for specifically, again, focused on this frontline worker, someone who has been, relatively overlooked up and through the last couple of years. So excited about Clevy, excited about what's to come.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's switch topic. I have my ticket to Unleash in Paris. You mentioned Paris a moment ago. That's happening in the middle of October. And then I'm dashing on an airplane, a bit like yourself. I know that you're on lots of flights and go to lots of places. I'm dashing off to Birmingham to help out with Disrupt HR Birmingham. I'm going to be co-hosting that, which I'm very excited about. And you were at Unleash America earlier this year, and you were part of a session answering the following question: is generative AI, is it coming for people's jobs, or will it help your people to become more productive? You spoke a moment ago about how it is probably the most sexiest topic at the moment in the world of work. Nevertheless, tell me more. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Look, I think this is probably, both at Disrupt and Unleash, and there are going to be great conversations about generative AI. If you talk to any CEO of any company, it's clearly on their mind. Is generative AI going to be an accelerator for our business? Is it going to be a disruptor for our business? Is it going to eliminate parts of our business? And so I think around every boardroom around the world, there are conversations around generative AI and what's the impact going to be. Specifically as we think about it from the HR perspective, right? I think this is the core question. I actually was with a group of HR leaders a couple of days ago, and the conversation came up: is this going to eliminate jobs, right? Is this going to take away jobs, or is it going to make more jobs, or is it going to make my people more productive? Look, first off, I think we need to realize that we're very, very early on. And so I think having some skepticism, taking a deep breath, thinking about it is probably really healthy right now. It's probably going to take years and years and years and years, and probably more than 10 years for some of this stuff to really ripple through the economy. However, it is an incredibly powerful technology, and I think it will impact lots of things. I'm on the side of that it will probably increase jobs, and specifically in the frontline worker space. That's where I'm focused. In the frontline worker space, I think it will actually increase the number of opportunities. It will help people be more productive. And I use some, I'm old enough to remember, previous iterations of big tech. If you go way back, right? The ATM machine where we all get cash, although I guess we get less and less cash these days, that was hearkened as this is going to eliminate all kinds of jobs. There'll be no bankers. The bank is going to die. There's going to be no tellers. Actually, the reverse happened. The number of people working at banks went up as a result of interesting technology that made it so that a human being could get their money out. I think the same thing is going to happen here with generative AI, specifically on the frontline worker side. So the question is, how is it going to impact things? How is it going to make people more productive? But I think I would take the over that it's probably going to increase roles and opportunities for people, but there will definitely be some changes.
Thanks for tuning in to the HR Chat podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. And now, back to the conversation.
If you were to point to a few obvious jobs, few obvious roles that probably will be more or less replaced in the next few years, just to push you a little bit on it, because I find this fascinating, and I keep asking people, what are those jobs of tomorrow that will be created? And I haven't had an answer yet. Nobody knows, of course. But in terms of some of those jobs that it's pretty obvious they're going to be replaced. The role of salespeople, for example, a lot of the questions can be automated, and you can go through different systems without necessarily needing to speak to someone anymore. It's pretty straightforward technology to pipe in FAQs and then add to that with AI, of course. What are your guesses? What are the obvious ones over the next few years?
It's a great question, Bill. It's one of the reasons why I always love talking to you, is it always pushes us to sort of think. I think I would say that I would break roles down into 3 categories. Category 1 is roles where I do think there will be significant disruption, where it can replace a lot of the role. Then the second category is roles where I believe it will not replace the role, but it will dynamically change it in a substantive way. And then the third category is roles where I just don't think it's going to really impact the role at all. So I'll start with the third one, right? Roles where I just don't think it's going to impact. The people who are putting, groceries on the shelf at your local grocery store, the people who are selling you jeans and t-shirts at retail stores, those roles are going to be relatively unaffected by this generative AI and AI technologies. I think it'll be a very long time before generative AI can put Cheerios on my store shelf. If you go into the second category, I actually think that's where there's a lot of work. Where I think you'll see some changes. I think a lot of people are in that category, and that category is fundamentally a category where part of your job will be automated. Part of the job of things like scheduling meetings and replying to emails and doing a lot of sort of what I would call lower level tasks. I do think those roles will change. I really do. I think you'll see sort of areas where those people will focus on the more high value areas, and a lot of the day-to-day admin stuff will just be replaced. And then, obviously, if you've got one category that's not going to be impacted and one category that's going to be changed, the third one is, are there roles where I do think that you'll see some pretty substantial changes? If you have an admin job that just does a lot of the same repetitive work over and over again, meaning writing emails, and that's like all your whole job, I think that job may be one where you see, hey, we don't need as many of those people. But I think the bulk of people are in that middle category. They're in a category where maybe 30% of their job is going to become automated as a result. It doesn't mean their job's going away. It just means their job's going to change.
What hiring trends are you guys observing at the moment then? So, providing insights into the future of hourly work. What are your predictions for the year ahead? What industries, what types of jobs do you think we'll see a bit more of a boom? It looks like the economy is fairly buoyant, despite lots of hesitation earlier this year in many sectors anyway.
Yeah.
What are your predictions?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the areas where you're going to see continued really, really strong growth, healthcare, manufacturing, warehouse, shipping, logistics, those are all industries that are growing really, really fast. What's interesting is, the Gen Z population is a relatively small percentage of our workforce. When I say relatively, call it 20%. But they actually are heavily oversaturated in the world of hospitality and in that world of food, accommodation, things like that, right? So they're angling more for that kind of a role. But I think the healthcare, manufacturing and shipping and logistics, you're just going to see a continued growth and high growth in those areas. The only other trend I'd pull out is I think you're seeing a shift towards a skill-based economy versus an education-based economy. Again, this is primarily towards the frontline worker side, but I see a lot of companies saying, what kind of a degree you got is less important than what kind of skills you've acquired. And I think it's an evolution of being in a competitive labor market. When you're in a competitive labor market, you need to rethink your processes, rethink your strategies. And I think you're seeing people say, do I need somebody with this kind of a degree, or do I need somebody who maybe went to a trade school and has this kind of experience, but can actually do the job I need in the frontline workforce? And so I think you're seeing that as a big one. I think you'll continue to see high school graduates opt for trade school and skill-based education over sort of your traditional 4-year degree. I think you and I can have a long talk over a beer about the value of 4-year higher education and whether the ROI there is good or not. But I think you're increasingly seeing people, given the cost of education, giving the time commitment of education, and given the competitiveness to get into some of these universities, say, maybe I should go learn a skill that I can start working on and growing in, and that's how I'm going to make my career.
In the fast-changing new world of work, organizations that want to succeed must support their teams to develop the right skills for today and for the future. As practical learning experts, Holt EF Corporate Education helps organizations and employees of all levels to develop the critical business skills, attitudes, and behaviors they need to be successful. We combine the expertise and agility of a boutique learning partner with the resources of a trusted, global organization. Learn more at holtef.com.
And I try and keep my opinions to myself on this show, Sean. However, I am very pro skill-based hiring. I think it's such a wonderful change.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you can discount, or you should discount folks' qualifications and credentials and all the rest of it. That's not what we're saying here. The point is there are fundamental skills that you can look for in your candidates, and the match can lead to wonderment, to lots of success if it's done in the right ways. Question for you: how crucial is the implementation of earned wage access for employers in terms of recruitment, in terms of the attraction process, and of course in terms of keeping your people around, the retention process?
Yeah, earned wage access is one of those critical benefits, specifically for the frontline workforce. Obviously, if you just look at the world, right? And again, I'm speaking here. I'm here in the States, but as you mentioned earlier, I travel a lot. I'm always somewhere in the world. But when you just think about the U.S. world, the U.S. folks, you've got a lot of people in the U.S. who are living where, every couple of weeks they need to make their paycheck, right? They don't have a safety net, a large kind of savings account that they can use. And so they need to make sure that they can get access to their wages in a very fast fashion. And so I think anytime you offer this kind of earned wage access or fast access to wages, it's a huge benefit to the worker. On the company side, it's really one of the most beneficial retention tactics that you can use. If I'm a worker and I know that I can get paid much faster at this job, I'm going to be way less likely to go look for another opportunity in another company. The only hesitation, or the only point I'd put in here is, the devil's in the details on these earned wage access things. What you're really looking for is an employee-friendly earned wage access, right? One where there's very, very little cost to the worker in order to access the benefit, right? Sometimes you see these earned wage access where really the goal is to get the worker to take out a loan. None of that is really the right thing. Really what we're talking about is, can an employer provide a benefit that gives that worker access to the wages they've already earned and do it in a cost-effective way for the worker? If you can do that, not only will you have happier employees, but you'll have people who stick around longer.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up. It makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
Okay, so plenty of jobs out there. Companies are having to get more creative about the ways that they can find and match with candidates. Given the current economic environment, Sean, how can workers secure additional work pretty quickly? Any tips around that? Lots of folks are having to look for a second job. So something maybe that expands their skill set. Part of the pandemic, one of the lessons from the pandemic was we have all this time to improve ourselves and take on new skills and get into self-development. A lot of people have carried that through, so perhaps complementary jobs, who knows. But what are your tips around there, given that it is a reality for a lot of people? They do need to find ways to make second incomes.
Yeah, Bill, it's great. It's a great question. I think you actually have two things going on, really. I think you have one, which is there are workers who need to secure additional work, right? Obviously, with inflation, although it's cooling, inflation is still there, and you still have, tough times for lots of people around the world. And so you're looking for people are looking for opportunities to find another way to make some extra money. Maybe I'm going to go drive for Uber or DoorDash or Grubhub or Deliveroo or something like that in order to make a little bit of extra money because I want to be able to provide for my family, or I want to pay my rent, or I want to, pay for my trade school or whatever it is. I think the other side you have people who want that, right? I think, a lot has been said about sort of the great resignation, right? The people looking to rethink their lives. And typically when you talk about the great resignation, you're talking about somebody who has an office job deciding to leave that office job. I think you're seeing something in the hourly work, the frontline worker as well. Maybe not as dramatic, but I think you're seeing people who are saying, I don't want to work 40 hours a week at this job. I want to work 32 because I want to do something else with my time. I don't want to just come to the same place all the time. And so you're seeing some people who maybe they're doing it because they want to get a new skill. They want to learn something new. They want to try something else with their life versus working the same job for the whole week. And so what they're doing is they're saying, I'll work 30 hours a week here, and then I want to try 10 hours a week doing something else. Our advice for those kinds of workers, right, is the good news is there's never been more opportunities out there, right? The key thing to do is look for companies where it makes it really easy for that company to hire you. So do they have a great welcome mat, as we would call it, right? Does it make it easy for you to engage with that employer? And then look for things like seasonal hiring, right? Where are opportunities where we're going into back to school, we're going into holiday? I can tell you right now in the transportation, warehouse, and logistics, lots of opportunities. And then the last one is because the good news is it's never been easier to apply for these opportunities. Look across industries, look at areas and opportunities where it wouldn't have been something you were thinking about. Maybe your experience is in retail, right? You would never consider doing something in healthcare or doing something in customer support or doing something in a warehouse. But those could be really great opportunities in different industries at different companies where you could learn a new skill and you might find that's actually a better fit for you long-term. So those are some things we would recommend for workers that are either need to get out and make a little extra money or just are finding themselves wanting to get out there and try something new.
For those companies listening out there who are looking to revamp their hiring practices and attract a more diverse workforce over the next 12 months, any tips, any insights, any anecdotes for those folks?
Yeah, a few that are really important. So the first one is to meet candidates where they are. I think, I'm always surprised when people view their career site, they look at it on a computer or on a laptop. That is not how the average worker looks at it. In fact, 90% of workers are very likely looking at your career site on their mobile device. That is how they are navigating the world and by proxy finding their next opportunity. So if you want to find those people, if you want to build a diverse workforce, you've got to meet people where they are, and where they are is on their mobile device. So everything has to be mobile first. Everything has to be, assume the person is looking at the device. Maybe they're on public transit. Maybe they're on their break. Maybe they're at lunch, but they're using their mobile device to navigate and find what's next for them. So that's the first thing I'd say. Number two is don't just recruit young people. There are plenty of people, especially as we get older, and people are able to work longer and be productive longer now than they were in the past. There's huge numbers of people who have maybe had a first career and are now thinking about a second one. So that's another really great way to kind of broaden your pool. Third one is there's lots of great job boards, and Fountain knows a lot of them. You can learn more about us at fountain.com, obviously. Sorry for the shameless plug, Bill, but you know me. But you can go to job boards that are dedicated to underrepresented communities and underrepresented candidates. Another really, really great place. And the last one is on video interviewing. I would say, one of the things we've learned is if you can meet people where they are and say, you don't need to come in for a first interview into our location, we'll do it video. You wind up getting people who maybe would have been eliminated from your job because maybe they have a commuting schedule, maybe they have another job, maybe they have childcare, or maybe they're taking care of an aging senior and they're not able to come in for that first interview. Video interviewing is a great way to kind of broaden your pool set. So those are a couple of tips and tricks, but obviously you can learn more about it at Fountain.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we've got the fountain.com plug down. Ordinarily, I also ask folks as we're wrapping up how they can connect with the guests themselves, LinkedIn, email, etc. However, in your case today, given how much you are traveling at the moment, perhaps the more pertinent question, Sean, would be what airports can people expect to see you at over the next few months?
Yeah, it's a great one. Obviously, fountain.com and LinkedIn are really great places to find me or find Fountain. But SFO's airport is a home away from home, and I have a special place in my heart for London Heathrow and JFK and Frankfurt and Charles de Gaulle. So if you're ever in one of those airports and you see someone dressed in a gray sweater and you want to talk HR, come talk to Sean.
There you go. There's only ever going to be one guy in a grey sweater at an airport. It can't go wrong. You asked me about HR. What? Who are you? Sean, as always, pleasure getting you on the show. Thank you very much for being my guest today.
Absolutely, Bill. Great to be with you.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.